Hey guys, I want to just show you how I do temple filler with a cannula, and I use the same cannula to do the pre-auricular area and like the posterior where her zygoma is. This area is pretty thin, especially on thinner, older, more mature ladies. This patient's young. I mean, she's mid-40s, but you can tell she's really thin. So you have basically the start of your Samaz, or where your lateral retaining ligament is where I have them smile, right where that little lidocaine wheel is. So that's usually where I put in my lidocaine. So this lidocaine, 2% with epinephrine, and then I just put in about 10 units. And then this is where I'm putting in the start of my temple. So basically I'm using a 22 gauge 2-inch cannula, and the product I'm using is Versa. You could use anything. Use Voluma, Lift, Classic even. You can use anything here. The thinner the patient, the more you're just going to be concerned about having that thick little lines, like the spider look. So you have to be really careful about that. So this here, I'm using Versa. I just think it's easier that way. And you can see I just put my cannula. It's very superficial. It's the opposite of how you really do cheeks. It's pretty superficial. Your fascia is pretty tight there. So mostly on cheeks and jawline, I'm going sub-Samaz. I'm going by the bone. Here, if you try to do that, the fascia gets really tight and it's really hard to get your cannula in. So if your cannula does not glide in really easily, that's when you're going to think like, oh, I'm maybe in the wrong plane. If they have a lot of pain, same thing. You're probably scraping the bone and it can cause a lot of pain. So pretty superficial here. You can dilute if you're really concerned about leaving those little spider marks. You can dilute with maybe 0.1 or 0.2 of bacterial normosaline. I have a video on that, but you just mix it with the Baxter connector. But you can see I'm leaving little linear threads. I go back towards the hairline. If you meet a little bit of resistance, you can kind of pinch. See, I'm pinching. My shoulder got in the way, but I kind of pinch up, pinch the skin up, and that will help you kind of redirect your cannula. And you can also take your finger and hold taut on the skin, and that will help just redirect it. And then you can add little linear threads, and I like to leave their mouth open. As you can see, I was just telling her, like, leave your mouth open. That really helps for me to gauge how hollow that temple is. Cannula is great for obviously getting in that hollowness. If you take a needle there, you're going to be too deep and it's going to eat up that filler. Sometimes I will have to switch to a needle in order to hit right on that temporal fusion line, because it gets really, really thin. So totally up to you what's best for your patient. But with the needle, just be careful, because obviously needle, so it can puncture an artery. With the cannula, you're pretty safe. There's nothing 100% unfortunately in injecting, so I have to be really, really careful. Then I take my thumb and kind of just mash it all around and smooth out the filler. And then I tell them, you will be puffy for a little bit. So totally normal to be puffy. So the puffiness can last. See how you can see the filler there? That can last for like 3 to 4 weeks. So then you can change the direction of your cannula and go for a little bit more of the fossa. And then I'll show you how I kind of flip it around to show the pre-auricular area. So all I do is, sometimes you can use the same entry point. You don't have to add the needle in again, but for me, I just find, especially lateral here, the fascia is so thin, so you have to be really careful. So I just changed my needle so I can go down, and then you see how I hold here, I hold on the side, I kind of pinch the skin up, and then I take my cannula and I'm pointing it down pre-auricular right by kind of her trigeminal complex, but I'm still on zygoma. In this area, you want to go a little bit deeper, but you don't want to go super deep because that's in the parotid. It's fine to get Botox and filler in the parotid, but it can feel kind of weird and they can have weird sensation. So sometimes I just go a little bit more superficial here, and that adds a lot of bulk. This is a great area to kind of mimic a facelift. I just tell people, like, you will not be completely like a facelift completely. Meaning, I think when you tell them, like, this is where they start for a facelift, or this is the ligament, they think that those are the results. I say that is not the result. No amount of filler will ever mimic what a facelift is. So that's a pre-auricular area. I do about probably half a syringe there. She, obviously, you could see, can use a lot more, but I'd rather start slow. Then my secret is I love to go sub-malar with my cannula. So see how I changed my direction? So I did one straight up temple, one straight down the pre-auricular. Now see how she's hollow? So there's a lot of hollowness under that cheek area, that sub-malar. So if I went with the needle, that would contour her more. So this is adding a little bit of bulk, a little bit of volume. That's youth, right? Youth is volume in this area. So adding even a little bit there will help to prevent that hollowness. That will also help accordion lines. So that's the other secret. For accordion lines, you want to bulk up that area first. So you can hit the piriform aperture with your cannula. A lot of people decide to go there first. You can do that. It just know when the patient moves and smiles, that's going to move with them. So sometimes I like to use a needle as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Quickly, the needle. This is the 1 up and 1 over. This is the Arthur Swift technique. So I palpate for the superficial temporal artery first. I go 1 centimeter up, 1 centimeter down, or 1 back and 1 down. And that's a sweet spot. That's also a temporal fusion line. I put the needle right to bone. I aspirate back big time. And then I slowly put in. I mean, his technique, you can put in like a whole, 0.4, 0.5. I don't. I like to do a little bit at a time.